Hey guys, welcome back to Vlogmas Day 23. Today is December 23rd, the day before Christmas Eve, and we're almost done with Vlogmas. I'm excited. It has been a journey posting every day. But today's video is going to be about Spider-Man No Way Home, a review of the movie. I saw it this morning with my brother, and I was super excited to see the movie. I actually wanted to see it sooner, but I wanted to go with someone, so I decided to go ahead and wait for him. And the movie did not disappoint. I will say, hands down, this was the best movie of the year. Like, honestly, this was the best movie that I've seen all year. Not saying that I saw a lot of movies, because, you know, with everything going on, but this was definitely by far, like, the best movie I've seen. And I guess, so this is definitely going to be a spoiler alert. Like, if you haven't seen the movie, go ahead and click out, because I'm going to talk about everything in the movie and, like, just everything that happened. So if you haven't seen it, go ahead and click out of this video, go watch the movie, and then come back. But anyways, to start, so it means a lot. This movie means a lot to me because I'm part of the, you know, generation that grew up watching Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. And it was one of those movies that kicked off superhero movies. To me, I feel like our generation, not saying I didn't know they existed before, but I feel like Spider-Man, like 2002 Spider-Man, that version of Spider-Man, like, kicked off superhero movies for me and made me realize that superheroes exist. And yeah, like, Spider-Man was that dude. So yeah, so let me start at the beginning. So if you didn't know, they had all three Spider-Mans come back, or not all three, but they had all two Spider-Mans come back. So they had Tobey Maguire reprise his role, as well as Andrew Garfield. And I mean, you don't see them till like later on, but like I said, it means a lot that they had all three people in the movie. And yeah, it just was very, like, touching. It was like a nostalgic feel. So starting from the beginning of this movie, we start off the movie and everybody's going crazy, because I'm not going to do a in-depth review, but I do want to, like, talk about the parts that I really liked. So starting off, we find out, obviously, that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and it's all over the news. They have also the same guy that has been doing the news, or the Daily Bugle, has been in all three movies as well. So that was, they were saying like, oh, it's a multiverse and stuff. I'm like, how is this guy in every single one? But anyways, I digress. But anyways, so yeah, we start off with, everybody knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. He has to rescue MJ, get her away from some people, and they're going through the whole regular thing of, like, college apps, applying for college. They want to go to MIT. So they applied to, I guess, other schools, and they were basically talking amongst themselves. When I say they, I'm referring to Ned and MJ and obviously Peter. And they were talking about backup schools that could be in Boston, they want to stay together, blah, 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 blase, squaze, right? So they don't get into any of the schools. And I thought that a cool twist would have been that Peter Parker actually did get into the school, but I guess it wasn't the focus of the movie. Like, I'm not saying nobody cared, but yeah. So anyways, moving on from that, he goes to talk to Doctor Strange, and he basically asks Doctor Strange if he can take away, no, he asks Doctor Strange if he could go back in time, but Doctor Strange tells him, like, no, we've already done it once, like, you don't want to play with stuff like that. So then he asks Doctor Strange if he could basically erase everybody's memory. Or Doctor Strange, I don't think he asked Doctor Strange that. I think Doctor Strange had the idea, like, it'll be, there was a spell that was done and it could erase people's memory, like the whole world. So the Doctor Strange starts doing the spell, and Peter keeps on adding people to a list of people that he doesn't want to forget that he is Peter Parker and that he's Spider-Man. So Doctor Strange is like doing the spell or whatever, but it ends up messed up. And next thing you know, I think he talked to the guy Flash Thompson from his school who had wrote the book Flashpoint about how he's best friends with Peter. But he also, so Flash had came into the cafe where MJ works and was like, oh yeah, I got into MIT, did you guys not get in? He was like, no. So then after all that was said and done with Dr. Strange was like, wow, you didn't have the bright idea to at least try and call the school and fight your case or plead your case about why you should be accepted. And he was like, oh, I could do that? Like, I love Peter. He was like, oh my gosh, like I could do that. Like I could call the school and plead my case. And basically he wants a chance for MJ and Ned to get in because he feels like it's not fair to them because they know him and they're friends with him, that they should not get into the school. So he decides to call the school, or he calls Flash Thompson, who's at the MIT mixer, because he got into the school, and he asks him like for help. And Flash was like, well, you gotta swing me to school like a whole month. And then they're going back and forth about that. They end up with like 2 weeks, I think 2 weeks or a week, something like that. And so after that, Flash tells him where he can find the lady, which happens to be on her way to the airport. So he is on his way to the airport and he finds the lady in the car. Next thing you know, Doc Ock shows up, and it's literally like 2004 all over again. Like Doc Ock shows up, and I think the one line was about, I have the power of the sun and moon in my hand or something like that. And he has like, I don't know, something like a chip or something. I forget exactly what the 2004 movie, like what he had. But he ends up fighting Doc Ock. He has to save the recruiter lady, and the lady tells him like, I'm gonna go plead your case with MIT so that you can get in, or so that they can get in and so that you can get in. That's what she tells Peter. And she's like, as she walks off, she was telling Doc Ock, she was like, yo, that was not cool. That was not cool. I thought that was funny. So then I was like, oh my gosh, like they're about to bring all the old villains back. And yeah, because personally for me, Doc Ock was one of my favorite villains. I don't know, for you guys, y'all let me know who was your favorite like Spider-Man villain. And I've watched all the Spider-Mans. So yeah, moving on from that, we go into, you know, the rest of the people coming back. Then we see the Green Goblin, I think. And then after that, he goes back to Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange tells him like something was wrong. And I redid the spell 5 or 6 times or something like that. So it was screwed up. So he's like, all these people, we have to send them back. They were able to catch and put in a cage Doc Ock. And then they don't know where the Green Goblin went. So then later, like that night, I think, or later that day, he encounters, well, between that time, I believe Doctor Strange and Peter have an argument about who they should send back or when they should send them back. And I forget exactly like what happens, but between that time at night, he tapes a phone to his chest, Spider-Man, and he encounters the Sandman as well as Jamie Foxx's character Electro, and he traps them both. So he traps the Sandman, he traps Jamie Foxx's character, and they also encounter a giant lizard, which they trap as well. The giant lizard was actually one of the only people that I forgot like as a villain. But I think he was in the first Amazing Spider-Man, I think, but I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But anyways, they trap all these people. He goes to visit Aunt May. Aunt May tells him that the person that he was looking for has walked in. So he goes in there, he's looking, he's frantic because he's like, I don't know if this man has her as a hostage, like what's going on, you know? So he goes in and he talks to his aunt, and you know, Norman Osborn is there. And I was like, that in itself was like, you know, the whole movie was like a flash from the past, but it was just crazy like seeing all these people like reprise their roles all in one movie. So he is talking to her, And Aunt May pulls Peter to the side and she's like, I don't think he's right, like in the head. And I think that you should help these people and da-da-da. She's like going on this whole thing because she works at like a food pantry or something like that. I don't know, some place that helps people. That's where she works. And she's telling Peter like, oh, I think that you should help these people. They should be rehabilitated, da-da-da. Peter's like, I mean, it's really not my problem. Like, I need to send them back, da-da-da. She's like, it is your problem, like, blah, blah, blah. So she convinces him that he needs to help. So he's like, all right, let me help these people. So he brings them all out. So in between that time that she convinces him that he needs to help these people, Doctor Strange has decided to send them all back with the cube. He's figured it out. So he's like, I'm gonna send all these people back to their universes because it's just gonna continue for people. Like, people are gonna continue to come, basically, is what he was saying. So he don't want that to happen. He's like, things are gonna get all crazy, like da da da. And so Peter's like, no. So in between that time, Doctor Strange and Peter have a fight, and Peter actually wins. And he takes the cube, he gives it to MJ, and he's like, you need to keep this safe, da da da. And I think him, or in that time, Ned and MJ go somewhere safe with the cube, and then he takes out all the villains and they go to Happy's apartment. Now, I skipped over that little part, but they're in Happy's apartment because Peter was so well known and everybody knew where their apartment was, so they needed like a safer place to stay. So they decided to stay with Happy, even though Aunt May had broken up with Happy. But anyways, they go to Happy's apartment and they're trying to think of cures for all of the villains. And while he's coming, he came up with something for Electro. I think he was coming up with something for Dr. Osborn, and then he was also coming up with something for Doc Ock. And the one for Doc Ock, he actually is able to implement. He takes out the fried chip, puts the new chip into him, and his whole attitude changes. Like, it's a completely different person, right? He's like, I am, like, this villain was reformed. And I was like, this is crazy. So he's only able to do that one, and then he starts to sense something, like an evil presence, I guess, and he's sensing it from Dr. Osborn, because you know Dr. Osborn has that Jekyll and Hyde, like, you know, he's part the Green Goblin and part of him is Dr. Osborn. So the Green Goblin side has taken over and he's just going off on Peter. All of them get into a fight. Electro was almost done, like, taking the energy out of him, but he takes off of that little ring. He takes it off of his chest. The Sandman, he gets all mad because he just wants to see his daughter. The lizard guy was actually in the truck the whole time. He never came into the apartment. And Happy had actually called him, and he was like, Peter, like, who are all these thugs, criminals coming into my apartment? We're gonna have a talk when I get back. So Happy is en route to the house, or his condo. And you know, he is fighting the Green Goblin. He's fighting all these people by himself. So Aunt May, he told her to run, but she ends up getting hurt and she ends up dying, which was really sad. It was really sad. I almost shed a tear. But when I think about it, I personally feel like it was kind of her fault that she was in that situation, because she was the one who told Peter in the first place, like, oh, you need to reform these people, da da da. And I'm just like, no, actually he didn't, and actually it's not his problem. But anyways, so she ends up dying. Peter is on his last leg. He is so sad. He never called MJ to tell her, like, hey, go ahead and press the button on the cube to eliminate these people, send them back to where they came from, send them back to their fates, basically, their deaths. And he's just in a bad place, man. So he is in a bad place. MJ and Ned are at Ned's house, I think. And Ned is like, I don't know what to do. Like, let's see if we can contact him. We need to see him. And because he has Doctor Strange's ring, he is able to create portals or whatever. So he's like, he says something like, I wish I could see Spider-Man. And Spider-Man appears. But I already knew as soon as they said, I wish I could see Spider-Man, or as soon as Ned said that, I was like, it's not. It is not Tom Holland. Like, I was like, it is another Spider-Man. And of course, it was Andrew Garfield. So Andrew Garfield comes out of the portal. He tells them his name's Peter Parker, of course. And then they're like, no, you're not Peter. And they go back and forth for a little while. And then he sticks to the ceiling. MJ throws a piece of bread at him a couple times. She tells him to crawl on the ceiling because that doesn't prove anything, that he can stick to the ceiling. And he's like, are you serious right now? Like, what are you talking about? And he crawls, cleans off a cobweb. He's good. So they have confirmed that this is a Spider-Man, just not their Spider-Man. And the next thing, which was probably, I feel like, the biggest moment in the movie. Well, yeah, I feel like it was the biggest moment, but I don't know if everybody agrees with that. They create another portal, and they're like, they want to see Spider-Man, or they want to see Peter, and out walks Tobey Maguire in the flesh. He's got on, I don't know, some like regular street clothes, and the theater was like hype. Our theater was hype. My brother said that he could hear people saying something, but I was so like in shock that Tobey Maguire was on the screen. I was just like, oh my gosh, like, it's crazy. Like, they have, you know, in my mind, he's the original Spider-Man, even though I'm sure there's other people who have played Spider-Man, but for me, like, he's like the original Spider-Man. And, you know, he's having a conversation with them and blah blah about Peter, like, where could he be? They need to find him, they need to locate him. And it's really a sad moment. And then they ask MJ and Ned, like, where do you think he could have gone, as far as like a place that he goes when he's hurt or depressed or down? And they tell him where that place is, and they find Peter, and he's up there and he's crying. Aunt May has just passed away, so yeah, he feels responsible for her death, and he feels like, you know, it's his fault. But like I said, I mean, I feel like it is partly his fault, but I feel like it's mostly Aunt May's fault. But anyways, I'm not going to dwell on that. So they come up with the plan. So I think I was saying, had to take a slight little break, but I think I was saying that they ended up finding Peter where he was distraught about Aunt May because she had just passed away. And he meets the other Spider-Mans, and basically they start working together. They come up with a plan. They devise a plan to take care of these villains. And this is all before or while Doctor Strange is locked in a portal. They pushed him in a portal, I believe, when Peter got into an argument with him. They pushed him in a portal. They don't know where he is. And obviously he can come back at any time, so they're not sure. But yeah, so they devise a plan. They start working together. They think of all the ways that they could rehabilitate these villains and basically not kill them. So they come up with, like, you know, an antidote for each one, a specific one. And yeah, they're trying to put it into action. The first part of the plan was for Peter to initiate contact with the Daily Bugle, put the word out there, because the villains are just in the city doing whatever they want, right? So he puts the word out there, meet me at the Empire State Building. And it's all three of them, Peter 1, Peter 2, Peter 3. And the villains come and they're fighting them, but they're not working as a team. And so this is when Peter 3 comes together with them. And if you don't know, Peter 3 is obviously Tom Holland, because he's the current Spider-Man. He comes together with them and he tells them, like, we need to work as a team. And they're like, oh, I've never been a part of a team before. And so then Peter 3 is like, I no need to brag, but I was a part of a team and it was called the Avengers. And then Tobey Maguire's like, oh my gosh, the Avengers, that's great. What is that? And Andrew Garfield's like, oh my gosh, is that a band? I don't know. That whole scene was just funny. But anyways, he's like, is that a band? They're like, he's like, it's irrelevant. Look, the point is we need to work as a team, like, you know, have a plan, work together. So they decide to focus on one at a time, get that one and get them down. So they eventually get all of them down, and they come to the last one, which is the Green Goblin. And you could tell that Peter 3 is in his feelings about it because Aunt May has just died. So he's upset, you know, he's upset. He wants to kill this person. He wants to kill the Green Goblin again. Well, not again, but, you know, in this universe. And he goes to take the glider and, like, put it on the Green Goblin. And Peter 1 stops him. So it is Tobey Maguire going against Tom Holland. They're pushing against each other with the glider. And I did not see that coming. And then the Green Goblin stabs Tobey Maguire. And I know everybody in the theater was like, oh no, like so sad. Like I was sad because I was just like, they really brought this man back to kill him. Like that's disrespectful. Like in my mind I was going off. But anyways, so they stabbed Tobey Maguire, but he is okay. And Andrew Garfield comes to his side, like he's okay, but he's in a lot of pain. And at this point, Doctor Strange is back. Doctor Strange comes back sometime between when they're taking out the villains and doing the antidotes or whatever on them. And he tells him, like, no, it's time. Like, I need to send them all back, And basically, they end up, you know, doing a spell. Well, Peter 3 goes to talk to Doctor Strange. He's like, Doctor Strange tells him, like, I'm going to do a spell where everybody forgets your existence, like, completely and totally. And he's like, you're not going to have much time to say goodbye. And Peter's like, okay, that's fine. So, yeah, he goes and talks to MJ. He talks to Ned. Obviously, he talks to them together. Then he goes to talk to other Spider-Mans. And he's basically just, like, saying goodbye, like, I'll see you later. And, yeah, Doctor Strange does the spell. It works. And I think, like, the next scene that we see is Peter going to see MJ at the place where she works. Her and Ned got into MIT. And he basically just asked for a cup of coffee. He wants to, you know, start a conversation, obviously, because he knows her. And, yeah, he doesn't like force things or anything like that. He just lets things be. And yeah, it's just really sad, man. Like seeing him literally go back to not knowing anyone, not having any friends. But Ned is also in the coffee shop, and he is looking at his phone, eating a donut. And so the last thing that we see is Peter going to an apartment, an empty old apartment, like in New York somewhere. And he just has one box of stuff. And yeah, it's just sad. And he has like his phone in his hand. And it's like a police scanner of like accidents going on throughout the city, or things happening throughout the city. And I thought that was also pretty cool how they brought it full circle from Tobey Maguire. I don't know if you guys remember. I don't know if I would have to go back and watch it, but either the 2004 movie or the one after that, the 2007, like Spider-Man 3, he gets his own apartment and he is trying to date MJ. He's trying to have a life. And it reminded me of where Peter Parker is now. So I was like, this is really, really cool. I love the whole movie. Like, the whole movie was really good. Like, they did not mess up. They brought everything full circle. They included everyone. It was a really good movie, y'all. Like, I have nothing bad to say about it. And me and my brother were talking about like the development of Spider-Man and how we feel like Peter. So Spider-Man 1, the 2002 version, I feel like they definitely developed him as Peter Parker. we know about his life. Like, he was an actual person, somebody that you feel like you could meet on the street. The Amazing Spider-Man, I feel like they definitely also developed him as a person as well. But you knew more of him as Spider-Man, the things that he could do, so on and so forth. With Tom Holland's Spider-Man, I do feel like he is developed as a person, but more so, a little bit less than the one, I would say a little bit less than the first one, the 2002 version. So, yeah. Sorry about that, the loud noise. Obviously, I'm outside and people are riding by in their cars and whatnot. But anyways, like I was saying, I feel like they really developed the 2002 version of Spider-Man, him personally, very, very well. And I feel like that's lacking just a little bit in this version of Spider-Man. Like, we know him, but we know him, I feel like, only as Spider-Man. Like, he doesn't get a chance to be himself, let go, let loose type thing. The only time we really see him be Peter Parker is when he's with MJ. So yeah. Also, I'm trying to think, was there anything else that I wanted to hit on? I don't know, like, this movie was really, really good. I'm super excited that I got a chance to see it, and see it, you know, with my brother. Our theater was super packed. We went and saw it at 10:30 in the morning. And it was really packed, and I was really surprised because I was like, wow. I was like, wow, a 10:30 a.m. movie and it's packed like this? That's crazy. But yeah, this movie's doing really, really well. And I also love the play on words that Tobey Maguire did for The Amazing Spider-Man. He's like, oh my gosh, like, you're amazing, you're amazing. Like, telling Andrew Garfield he was amazing. And I love how they subtly address each Spider-Man as well. Like, with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, people say, you know, that's the least like Spider-Man. I personally feel like I do like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Is it at the bottom of the list? I mean, kind of, but I like all the Spider-Mans. Because like I said, Spider-Man was the first real superhero that was, I don't know, like, very down to earth. And this movie came out when I was in like 7th grade, so 7th or 8th grade, I don't know exactly when, but it came out in 2002, so around that time. And yeah, it just, the movie touched me. I feel like it was a great movie. If you guys went and saw the movie, please let me know what you thought about it, and we can continue this conversation in the comments. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.